we have ourselves some royalty. You ready, T.J. Jefferson? You wear a lot of the T-shirts that are combined the essence and name of this man.
Yes, sir.
One of the famous, most decorated wrestlers of all time, now part of AEW, and AEW Rampage can be seen tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on TNT to watch CM Punk take on Daniel Garcia. But before that, CM Punk here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. And, before we continue with anything else,
yes, sir.
When I was remodeling my house, I almost put a urinal in it.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Now then, for the terrestrial radio listeners who are just saying, why would CM Punk say that? It's just we talked about Meghan Trainor and her husband have side-by-side toilets. And,
I don't got anything weird like that, but I consider it a urinal.
Okay, and I'll bite. Why, CM? Why?
Because it was suggested, like, oh, what if you put a urinal in here? And I literally just went, I guess that makes sense, but you know what? No, okay, skip it. And that's about how long it took.
Well, I think that's a wise choice. How are you doing, man? How does it feel to be back in the game, back in the ring, Punk?
Oh, it feels great. It really does. I think I missed it without realizing I missed it. Just actually, throwing on some boots and some knee pads and stuff and getting in front of a live audience. There was a point, I think, where I had done everything I could possibly do, and there was really kind of no avenue for me to enjoy something I used to really, really love. And then AEW came around. It kind of the spark grew from there. The idea, the possibility that I could come back and kind of re-engage with my love of pro wrestling again. And that's exactly where I'm at right now, so it feels great.
Well, I interviewed Cody and Brandy Rhodes together, and Cody came just a couple weeks ago. And Cody came on a couple years ago, just when AEW was in its infancy. And, when I was talking to the Rhodeses the other day, because I'm an NFL Network guy now, 18 years, but when we were just age 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, we were dreaming of being good enough and legitimate enough for those in the NFL to want to join us. And then folks like Dion joined us, and then Brian Gumbel called games for us. And I think they view your arrival with them as legitimizing their infancy now being part and parcel of the wrestling world. How do you feel about that?
I try to keep my feet on the ground when I hear stuff like that, but I understand that, and I think there's some truth to it. I just don't want it to blow my ego out the door. Because I do take that as a quasi responsibility. To me, it's great. It's great that I'm here. It's great that Bryan Danielson's here in AEW. But to me, we gotta start the work, and I don't want to rest on my laurels and just be like, oh, I'm here now, everything's great. I want to do fun stuff, but I also want to help grow the company.
So what did they sell you on that you bought? What did you say? Okay, let's do it. Why?
It originally was nothing that Tony Khan was offering me. I'm at the point where it's not about the money. Otherwise, I would have been back. I was gone for 7 years. I would have been back at some point, to cash grab in those 7 years. The biggest thing was a friend of mine who had left WWE and was signed with AEW, and he just started there during the pandemic. And he unfortunately got a pretty serious illness, and he passed away day after Christmas last year, or this year actually. And they did a tribute show for him, and the entire show was dedicated to him. It was very emotional. Pro wrestling's a pretty tight knit community. You could not see somebody for 20 years, and then you run into them somewhere, and it's just like you saw him yesterday. And I just saw the entire company come together to celebrate Brody Lee and his family and his two little sons. And that just really resonated with me because I had never seen anything like that in pro wrestling before. Normally it's like, 10-bell salute, here's a T-shirt. Yep, we really love this guy. And it's just kind of on to the next. And they just really poured their heart and soul into dedicating a show, and they're starting a foundation now for him. And that was the big thing that made me go, all that stuff about pro wrestling being a family backstage, it looks like it's actually true in this place. And then, I start watching more shows and I see more young talent, and I begin to see things that I could be doing within the parameters of an AEW wrestling ring. And I guess I just got the bug again.
And then when you returned and you're standing in a ring and you're in the United Center and the Chicago kid, CM Punk, gets in that ring and you started talking to the fans, it looked like it got very dusty in there, and I don't mean Rhodes. It looked like it got really dusty in there with you, CM Punk. Did I see something?
I think my eyes were leaking before I even appeared on camera. Yeah, it was a really emotional day.
It was. And, so now that you are back, and what has your, I guess, first blush experience been now that you're after 7 years? What is it exactly that you think you missed and that you're glad that you're no longer missing it?
Well, it's definitely the selfish stuff, like the roar of the crowd, the adrenaline rush you get, feeding off the people, performing in front of crazy, rabid, sold-out crowds like 20,000 people at Arthur Ashe Stadium, or just walking out onto the ramp in front of 15,000 people at the United Center. Those things I haven't done in so long, so it's almost like they're new again. Engaging in pro wrestling with guys who maybe grew up watching me is kind of a trip, but it's exciting too, because there's just this whole new generation of young, hungry wrestlers that I guess look up to me as a kind of a role model. And, so I feel like I'm in this very Reggie Dunlop slapshot position of player coach, old gnarly guy who has got a couple tricks up his sleeve and, wants the team to succeed and win, but, along the way, help some guys out.
CM Punk here on the Rich Eisen Show. AEW Rampage tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern on TNT. You can watch CM Punk take on Daniel Garcia and so much more. You want to chime in on the naming of Justin Fields as the Bears' new quarterback, CM Punk?
I think it's a little late. They should have done it originally. I think when you draft a guy like Justin Fields in the first round, I think you just got to go all in. You're never going to be ready. Yes, but if you wait until you're ready, you're never going to wind up playing. So just play the kid, let him get some experience, build the team up around him. I think we got more problems with the offensive line than we got with who's our quarterback.
And I think that's part and parcel of why maybe some within that organization was hesitant to throw him out there. My take was he's got the pedigree from his the Ohio State part of his resume to withstand anything, and he's got the legs to run away from the trouble, and he's got the heart, and he's got the brains, and he's got the want to. And when he won his first game after a first career start, wound up in the ashes of 9 sacks, it showed he doesn't get broken. So keep him. What gives,
I agree with you. I agree. I think they need to live in the present, and he is the present. You put him in there, and you see how he does. You can't live in the future of, maybe he's going to get too beat up. Well, let's see what happens. What if he doesn't? Like I said, if you wait until the guy's ready, it's gonna pass you by.
And what do you think of the idea the Bears might not play in Soldier Fields one day soon? That Soldier Field might be toast. Did you hear about that one?
I blame that on the mayor. I think that boils down to the Bears not owning the property they play on, and it winds up being they have to ask the city if they want to do certain stuff, like have like the offsite betting and all that. And as an owner, I understand that that's a headache. And why wouldn't you just go buy some property and then you don't have to ask a landlord if you can or can't do something with the place that you basically consider home. So I get it. It's going to be a big change and it's going to suck. But, they're 45 minutes to an hour north, depending on traffic. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It's just an iconic thing you think about when you hear Chicago Bears, you hear Soldier Field. So It'll be an adjustment period, but overall, I don't think it should affect anything.
CM Punk here on the Rich Eisen Show, and watching Rizzo playing a playoff game for the Yankees, Schwarber right now with the Red Sox, and tonight we're going to see Chris Bryant, maybe with the best chance of one of the former Cubs to go win another one. How does that land on you, CM Punk, Cubs fan, to see these guys all doing their thing, but not for and with each other anymore?
It absolutely sucks. That team should have been a dynasty, and the fact that they won one World Series is fantastic. But when you look at all those pieces, and all those pieces are now scattered all over Major League Baseball and playing on different playoff teams, you got to question why and what happened there and what went wrong. I'm still kind of hoping some of those guys come back to the Cubs, in the off season. Maybe they're just trying to fleece some teams for their prospects and their picks and stuff. But I don't know how much hope I have in that. I think the Cubs really let the fans down on that one. They should have tried to at least keep Rizzo. I get it, but I also don't get it. It's kind of heartbreaking. But I will root for Chris Bryant, and I will root for Kyle Schwarber going.
Have you ever done the take me out to the ball game ceremonial first pitch double dip in Wrigley Field? CM Punk, have you done that?
I have. Yes, I have.
Okay. How'd that one go for you?
It was a strike. It was a heater.
Pardon me for asking, but I've done this before at Dodger Stadium, and my stuff would have hit a right-handed hitter, but the left-hander would have swung over the off-speed junk. But you were at the top of the mound, though, right? You didn't go. You went to the top and towed the rubber, right?
I threw from behind. I threw from behind the rubber.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
No, I didn't. I'm kidding. Yeah, I was on the top of the mound. Of course I was. Of course I was.
Well, I mean, some, just stand on the flat ground or at the front of the mound. I mean, you went to the...
It's intimidating. A lot of my friends who wind up doing it, they call me and they ask me and they go, "What's it like?" And I say, it's literally intimidating. You walk out there and you don't realize how many people are there, and you don't realize how high that mound is and how far away home plate is. It's a stressful situation.
And then to take me out to the ball game, you think that, you're supposed to sing it fast, but the organist goes very slow. That's when you wind up sounding like Ditka. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, you got to let the crowd just sing it. And
okay.
You kind of just let them take it.
That's so cool. You must have loved that. That must have been like a day in your life right there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, definitely a top 5 highlight of, Chicago Phil's life, for sure.
Last one for you, CM Punk. I'm going to hand things over to my diehard wrestling fan and a diehard fan of yours right here on the Rich Eisen Show, our social media grandmaster, TJ Jefferson, who may have to pull an audible, because I think your first question, TJ, is why didn't you build a urinal in your house, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so
he answered that, though.
That's now been asked and answered.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to go, with another question.
Another question.
Go for it. I'll give you the floor here.
Well, Punk, Rich has been saying how excited I am that you're calling onto the show. And I mean, I guess you could say I'm excited. I mean, my fantasy football team has been called best in the world for 8 seasons. And if you go to my crib, my Wi-Fi is best in the world. And my iPhone wake-up song when I wake up in the morning is called A Personality. So I guess you could say I dig CM Punk just a little bit. But, the question I want to have is, we don't want to look to the past. We already know what happened back then. Let's look to the future and this forbidden door that's going on in wrestling right now, man. Is there any chance that we'll see you, in addition to AEW, kind of hit up New Japan so we can see some matches with Okada and Tanahashi and Naito? Or is that something you're not looking forward to or not looking at right now? Or are you just looking to really help grow AEW?
I'm for sure, both feet in on AEW, but I know a lot of the New Japan guys wind up coming over and wrestling on AEW Dynamite and Rampage, and I'm not adverse to the idea, but I know they're in the throes of their G1 tournament and stuff like that, so I don't know if they can spare the guys. And I think because of the pandemic, you still don't see a whole lot of, travel from, America to Japan. I definitely think you'd have to do a hard 2-week quarantine once you got to Japan, and I just don't think that's a viable option at this point. I got to do that when I take acting gigs, and that's hard enough, So then to be in Japan for 2 weeks to sit in a hotel. I'd probably lose my mind. But yeah, I'm for sure interested. I mean, you said Okada, and I think that's a guy I would definitely be interested in getting in the ring with, because again, gone for 7 years, the rise of everybody who has become a superstar in my absence, like I definitely want to get back in the ring with, and he's probably the number one guy over there.
No doubt.
Okay. Thank you, CM Punk. Really appreciate this. We'd love to do this on the regular as much as you'd like. We'd love to just have you chime in.
You guys let me know. We can talk Chicago sports. We could talk everything, but we won't talk about urinals anymore, I promise.
Well, I mean, again, that's asked and answered. I was going to say that if you do go over to Japan, you can definitely, they've got the seat warming toilets there. I'm assuming that's what Meghan Trainor and her husband have next to each other, one of those things. But
let's get into some comments the next time he calls.
I got one of those.
Ladies and gentlemen, CM Punk, confirmed. Let's tweet that out. Tweet that out. Thanks for the call. Enjoy tonight, and let's do this again. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot, man.
Right back at you. At CM Punk on Twitter and Instagram. AEW Rampage tonight, 10 Eastern on TNT. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.